What is going on, YouTube fam? It's your boy Tony 2 times, and we back with another episode of Hood Tales, man. Before I start, be sure to tap that like button. Definitely watch this video to the end to hear the full story and all the details in the case. For all the day one fam, welcome back. Y'all already know it's all love. Thanks for tuning back into another episode. If you're new to the channel and you feeling the content, feel free to subscribe. Definitely hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time we drop a new upload. Let's get right into the story. Playing both sides of life. What does that exactly mean? For example, a young man might be going to college to be a lawyer, but quickly realizes he could trap a little bit at school and decides to sell some coke to his classmates. It might start off just to make some extra money, but the hustling might get so good to him, his focus is not school anymore. Now a good kid ends up in the drug game by default. And that's a dangerous thing. For one, a lot comes with that lifestyle, other than just making money. You have police, stick-up kids, worrying about clientele telling on you, and a lot more. But by the time you realize you should have just stayed in school, it's too late. Trapping is a dead-end game. That's why it's literally called the trap. Some choose that life and understand the consequences and can accept them. But it gets deep, to the point family members even become enemies. We all heard of Paid in Full, the movie. In a real life situation based out of Harlem, New York, some teenage boys was getting some real money, but the walls started closing in on them all at once, including an uncle helping kidnap his own nephew just to get some product. It gets real like that in the streets, not to mention a so-called homie backdooring his man for some weight. That was in the 80s, but not much has changed since then, unfortunately. The streets are still vicious and turns families to enemies all the time. And on this episode of Hood Tales, we will be taking it to Phoenix, Arizona to discuss a case from 2010 involving a man sentenced to life in prison for hitting his own brother and his nephew, and what led to the situation. According to sources, back in 2010, a young man named Christopher Ray Lycon was attending college at ASU, or Arizona State University, trying to better himself and his life. Him and his half-brother, Angel Jaquez, were cool, to the point they hung out and did a lot of things together, including a little side business selling narcotics. Angel had a 6-year-old son named Xavier, who he spent a lot of time with, in a townhome on East Broadway Road in Phoenix, where the two brothers hung out at and kicked it. But everything would change on Monday, December 13th, 2010. That morning, Angel and Christopher got up early in the morning to get ready for the day. 6-year-old Xavier was at the house with his uncle and father, getting ready for school. And Christopher was also getting ready to go to class. Angel loaded his son in the whip and his brother. He drove Christopher to ASU to take his final exams that day, then drove his son Xavier to school at 67th Avenue and Indian School. Later that day, Angel drove back to both schools to pick up his son and brother and return to the home. That evening, things took a turn for the worse. At about 5:40 p.m., Christopher called local police to report he arrived at his brother's home at 2719 East Broadway Road and found Angel laying on the couch unconscious. As authorities arrived to the scene, they quickly realized Angel was suffering from a gunshot wound to the back of his head and was unfortunately pronounced gone at the scene. There was a shell casing laying next to his body, but no sign of forced entry. With no suspects in mind, and Xavier, Angel's 6-year-old son, wasn't at the home. Christopher seemed shaken up and stated he didn't know what happened. Christopher was able to leave the scene while police continued to investigate. But things would take a strange turn when neighbors realized Angel was gone. They told authorities a man matching Christopher's description was spotted at the home at about 2:45 p.m. They heard Xavier crying as a man was carrying him to the car. He was screaming and also said, "I want to be with my dad." The next day, 20 miles away by his mother's home, Xavier's body was found in an alley. with a Burger King kids meal laying next to him, and under him, a pool of blood. Someone had shot the boy, and unfortunately, he was pronounced gone on the scene. As the double hit of the father and son hit the news, a friend of Christopher got a strange feeling. He would call police and tell them the day of the shooting, Christopher came to his home and asked him could he hold a gun for him. Being that was his homie for over 6 years, the man didn't ask any questions and quickly put the blick in the shoebox in his closet. But he felt funny the next day when friends told him Angel had been killed and Christopher never called or picked up the phone. The man left out and returned home to realize something didn't feel right. He looked around his home and realized the only thing that was missing was the gun Christopher asked him to hold. This gave police a lead to look at Angel's own brother as a suspect in him and his son's murder. Angel's whip was searched because Christopher was driving it at the time. 9mm shell casings were found in a Happy Meal toy from Burger King. That was the jackpot, since Xavier's body was found by a Happy Meal box without a toy. With further investigation, people who knew the brothers told police about them trapping together, and the motive would come up of an argument between the two over product and money, and Christopher shooting his brother while he was watching TV and taking his nephew because he saw the whole thing, and getting rid of him because he thought he could be a witness. Charges was quickly brought up on Christopher. On January 10th, 2011, he was indicted by a Maricopa County grand jury and charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, 2 counts of burglary, kidnapping, and tampering with physical evidence. Christopher would eventually turn himself in. With all the evidence against him, his attorney took the route of pleading insanity for his client, saying the day of the shootings, he was in a psychotic state and wasn't in his right mind. But after evaluating Christopher's mental health, it was found he was fit to stand trial. The state was going for the death penalty at first, painting a picture of a man who hit his own brother and got rid of his nephew to get away with the crime. With all the evidence and witness testimonies, a jury found Christopher guilty, but not of first degree, but second degree murder. He was sentenced to life plus 36 years in prison. Rest in peace to Angel and Xavier. I send my prayers and condolences to the surviving family members. This story is wild. It just goes to show how money can affect relationships. This wasn't no people off the streets. This was his nephew and brother, and he took them both. More of this story, don't go off the path. If Christopher would have just focused on college and work, he would more than likely still be free, and his brother and nephew still alive. You can't play two sides of life. Even if Angel was trapping, Christopher could have been like, nah, bro, and let his brother just take care of his own business. But instead, his emotions made him take his own family over a petty dispute. That's how quick life can change. From college to prison for life. So remember, we gotta succeed not to fail, so we won't be just another hood tale. Man, this is a crazy story. Rest in peace, Angel. Definitely rest in peace, Xavier. He was 6 years old. I couldn't imagine his uncle grabbing him, buying him a Happy Meal, knowing what he about to do to him. That's a crazy situation, man. At the end of the day, you know, this is brother. This ain't no dude out the streets. And that's how wicked it get out here. But y'all already know, man. Leave it in the comments. I appreciate you if you made it to the end. It's your boy Tony 2 times. This is another episode of Hood Tales. Love, fam. I'm out.